For this video, I wanted to start off by talking about my 10 favorite Tyson fights to watch. So I'll start with number 10, and that's Mike Tyson versus Carl Williams. So this fight was, I think it was in 1989, and it was his last fight before his first loss. So essentially it was, at the stage where people thought of him as invincible. And I mean, in this fight, it looked like he clearly was. He beat Williams in the first round. Some people think the ref stopped the fight early, but I mean, that's debatable. But it was like a really sweet one-punch knockout where it was seemed kind of competitive. This guy, Carl Williams, obviously was this chance to do something and fight Tyson, who was the undisputed champion, had all the belts, and it was a big deal. And then Tyson landed that vicious one-punch left hook near the end of the first round. And I mean, I guess Williams beat the count, but the ref waved it off because I don't know, I think he was pretty out of it or clear-eyed or something. I don't know, it was kind of debatable. He was arguing that the ref shouldn't have stopped the fight, but anyways, it was a good fight, and I just like the hype around it too, in terms of just Tyson being, still undefeated, and just in terms of his, the whole Tyson mystique. It was definitely at, an all-time high. My next fight is Mike Tyson versus Marvis Frazier. So this fight was cool too, in terms of the hype behind it. Tyson was pretty young; he wasn't champion yet. But the fight, I mean, it was pretty much one of the most vicious knockouts you'll ever see. He knocked him out in around 30 seconds, and it was pretty crazy too, because he knocked him out with an uppercut, and then it was like he landed 3 more knockout blows right before he hit the ground. So it's almost like he knocked him out 4 times before he hit the ground. So you watch, he knocks him out with the uppercut, and then as Frazier's falling, he hits him 3 more times with pretty huge shots. So it was just one of the most vicious knockouts. And then Marvis Frazier kind of fell down and was on both of his knees, he was kind of up on his knee, it was he was up on his knees, right? So he was down, he was on both of his knees, kind of sitting up with his face down. He was just completely out cold, and the ref counted, I think, a few seconds, then realized that he was out cold and just waved off the fight. My next favorite fight is Tyson versus Jesse Ferguson. So this fight too was when Tyson was pretty young, before he was champion. It was one of his first big fights on national television and everything, and he was kind of this young phenom kid that everyone was talking about, and this was his chance to be on TV and do something exciting. And Jesse Ferguson was I think Tyson was probably 19, and Jesse Ferguson was a grown man, professional boxer, a decent fighter. And I guess it was thought of as Tyson's biggest step up in competition at this point. And he landed a pretty vicious hook to the body and then uppercut to put him down in, I think it was the 5th round. And then after that, but Ferguson was able to beat the count. And then after that, Ferguson essentially just kept holding over and over until the ref was forced to disqualify him, because the knockout was inevitable. But that knockdown punch in I think it was the 5th round, was really awesome to watch. It was a great combination. It was just, I don't know, pretty impressive that the guy actually got up from it. But yeah, it was a really sick punch. My next favorite fight to watch is Tyson versus Peter McNeely. So this fight, it was Tyson's first fight coming back from prison. So he had a big layoff. I guess he was out for about 4 years. And they picked this guy Peter McNeely to fight. And I just thought, the fight too, if you watch the hype behind it and everything, it really kind of just felt like a movie, right? So you have Tyson, who's this scary guy, maybe best heavyweight ever or whatever, coming out of prison after 3 years. And then you have this guy McNeely, who's kind of a Rocky Balboa, and he's given his 1,000,000-to-1 shot, kind of out of nowhere, to fight Mike Tyson. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty just awesome. And I don't know, the pre-fight's awesome, watching Tyson come out in his pre-fight entrance, and then watch him in that ring as he's staring McNeely down. Everything about it is just awesome. And then in the first round, he knocks McNeely down twice. The second one is the first one's kind of a slip, but whatever, not a slip, but the first one's kind of more of a balance shot, whereas the second one is pretty vicious uppercut. And the corner decides to stop the fight, even though McNeely was able to beat the count. It did look like McNeely was about to get knocked out pretty badly if the corner didn't stop it. But everyone was pretty disappointed that the corner did stop it, because, you know, they ran into the ring and like waved the towel and everything and stopped the fight. And I don't know, I would have liked to see what happened. Maybe McNeely would have gotten out of the first round, maybe not. You know, who knows? But McNeely was showing a lot of heart, and he was like giving it, you know, doing his all. So it was exciting. I don't know, I always thought that fight too, to me it really felt like something like straight out of a movie. And I love rewatching it over and over. For number 6 on my list, I have Tyson versus Trevor Berbick. So this is when Tyson won the heavyweight championship for the first time. He broke the record for the youngest fighter ever to win the championship at 20. The fight itself was pretty exciting. The first round, Tyson's landing bombs. Second round, he lands a few more, and then eventually Berbick goes down, and he is unable to. It's pretty kind of funny watching him trying to get up, because he gets up, falls down again, gets up, falls down again. So essentially, like, falls down 3 times trying to, like, you know, beat the count. And then I think technically he did beat the count, and then the ref stops the fight at like 9.5, but he was super out of it. And I think the ref at one point, I think he said in an interview once that if he had let the fight go on, it would have been fatal. So yeah, it was pretty vicious, and it was really like Tyson making a statement, like, you know, I'm the new whatever heavyweight champ, and, you know, it was just exciting stuff. Next on the list at number 5 is Tyson versus Larry Holmes. Another pretty awesome fight. Tyson was champion. He's fighting Holmes, you know, ex-champion. So there's kind of like the history there. The fight was interesting though. I mean, people thought Holmes was holding his own or got off to a decent start, and then in the round 4, he kind of seemed like, I don't know what he was thinking, but it seemed like he like got through those first 3 rounds, and he was like, maybe that was what he was thinking, that after 3 rounds Tyson's gonna lose a lot of steam or something, or Tyson's tense is tired. He just needed to get out of those first 3 rounds, and then things were going to start going his way. So it seemed like after those first 3 rounds, Holmes kind of seemed pretty confident, and then Tyson just landed a huge like 1-2 shot, and then Holmes went down, got up, Tyson knocked him down again, Holmes got up, and then Tyson was like, you know, stalking him around the ring, and it wasn't clear if Holmes was going to make it through the round or not. And I think with about a few seconds left, Tyson just knocked him out completely out cold with a right hand. Which is pretty awesome too. He like throws the right, misses, and just throws the right immediately again. Like throws the right, miss, throws right, boom, right on the chin, and Holmes is out cold. So yeah, that was pretty vicious and awesome. And not only that, I don't think Holmes, well, yeah, Holmes had never been knocked out before. I'm not sure how many times, if he had been knocked down, but I know he'd never been knocked out before. And I don't think he's been knocked out since. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I know at the time it was the first person ever to knock out Larry Holmes, and I don't know, Tyson looked pretty, he looked pretty badass doing it, and it was a pretty awesome fight. Next on my list is Tyson versus Frank Bruno 2. So this fight was in '96, after, you know, so Tyson had come out of prison. He had a fight against Peter McNeely, then he had another fight against, I think it was Buster Mathis Jr., so he had a first round knockout, a third round knockout, and then he got his title shot to try and win back the championship. So, I mean, he lost his title in 1990 against Buster Douglas, and then, I mean, I guess then he won a few, and then after that he won a few fights. I think he won, 4 fights in a row, and he was about to fight Holyfield to win the title back in 91, and then the beginning of 90, and then that fight got postponed, beginning of 92, and then there was the rape case and everything, and he went away to prison. So now he finally got his chance to win back the title again after losing it, you know, 6 years ago. And he finally got his chance, and he fought Frank Bruno, and it was pretty one-sided destruction, and Tyson knocked him out in 3 rounds. And the knockout was pretty vicious, and then it was also cool, right after he knocked him out, kind of just the way Tyson reacted. It was pretty, like, kind of just inspiring. You can kind of tell how much he'd been through and how long it had been since he won that championship and how badly he wanted it. And you kind of felt like, yeah, he showed a little bit of emotion or something, which is like pretty rare for Tyson. So I don't know, it was just exciting the way it all went down. And yeah, I definitely love that fight. Love to rewatch it. Number 3 is Tyson versus Francois Botha. So this was Tyson's first fight after his 1-year suspension from biting Holyfield's ears. So this fight, to me, I thought it was just the whole fight. I thought the fight was pretty entertaining. It was a pretty entertaining fight. Tyson didn't really look that good. And then it was in the 5th round, and then the commentator, right as the commentator was making some comment like, you know, Tyson looks pretty awful out there or something, the commentator said something like, Tyson can't get off 2 shots, and he's a shot fighter, and blah, blah, blah. And the second he said he's a shot fighter, Tyson just landed the perfect 1-2. and just knocked out Francois Botha. And that knockout is actually my favorite Tyson knockout ever. It's so awesome. You should watch it. It's just, I mean, Francois Botha seems like he's getting a little overconfident, and then Tyson just somehow lines him up perfectly for that perfect, 1-2 shot where he steps into the right hand and just delivers like all of his power into Francois Botha, and you can just kind of see him like crumble, and the crowd just reacts like pretty ridiculous. And yeah, the knockout was just I thought that was just an awesome knockout where it really just showed Tyson's power. So number 2 on my list is Mike Tyson versus Vander Holyfield 1. So this fight is a loss, but I love rewatching the fight. I mean, I love Holyfield too. So, and I don't know, for the fight itself, I don't know, I think like if you watch it, like, and you're cheering for Holyfield and everything, just it's such like a kind of inspirational fight, right? Like, you can even see kind of in the pre-fight how Holyfield looks pretty like scared and nervous, and he kind of has that moment. There's a moment in that pre-fight where they're singing these two father and son singing duo are singing the national anthem, and whatever, they're doing a pretty great job. But I don't know, every now and then we see like a really good national anthem kind of makes it more exciting. So anyways, I thought they were doing a great national anthem, and you see some moment with Holyfield where he looks kind of scared, and then he kind of takes like a gulp, and you can see him like becoming brave and understanding what he has to do, and really showing courage, and he fights Tyson. And at this point too, Tyson's like, in terms of the whole mystique and everything, was maybe at an all-time high. I mean, he had lost once to Buster Douglas, but look, I mean, he lost to Buster Douglas, kind of made it seem like a fluke, followed that up with 4 wins, then he goes to prison, then he comes out, follows it up with 4 more wins, like quick knockouts. I think he went, since coming out of prison, he went first round knockout, 3rd round knockout, 3rd round knockout, 1st round knockout. So he kind of just looked like such a beast and everything, and nobody was giving Holyfield a chance. And even when the fight started, I think Tyson's first punch like wobbled Holyfield a bit. So right away, people were dying Holyfield, and then Holyfield, dug deep. And the whole fight was awesome. I remember there's a few parts in the corner where one point the corner said to him, like, just stay calm and it's you. I thought that was kind of interesting, just hearing the corner say that. And there's another part in the corner where Holyfield's corner said to him, I think he said something like, no matter how bad you feel, trust me, he feels worse. Something like that. So maybe it was like, no matter how bad you feel, he feels worse. I thought that was interesting too, because you could just see how, obviously, Holyfield's having a hard time, and they're going 11 rounds with Tyson. But you could watch him just really like dig in and just give it everything he had and all that, and he comes out with the win and knocks Tyson out in their technical knockout in the 11th round. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, I find that fight very inspirational, and it's like awesome to watch. And yes, I love rewatching that fight over and over. And then, okay, so finally, number 1 on my list for favorite Tyson fight to watch. I wonder if you guys could guess it by the picks I've had so far in this video. Let me just recap real quick. So I have number 10, Carl Williams, 9, Marvis Fraser, 8, Jesse Ferguson, 7, Peter McNeely, 6, Trevor Berbick, 5, Larry Holmes, 4, Frank Bruno, the second time they fought, 3, Francois Botha, 2, the first fight, Holyfield and Tyson, and number 1 is Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks. So to me, that fight is awesome for many reasons. First of all, I think a lot of people would agree that fight is like Tyson reaching his pinnacle. And I've heard people say things like, well, Tyson never really got to reach his prime because, if his prime was at, I'm trying to think how old he was for that fight. I guess he was 22, right? So they're saying if his prime was at 22, if he had stayed the course, he could have been so much better by the time he was 25, 26. But I don't necessarily think that's the case. I mean, I think if you look at Tyson, he met like Cus D'Amato at 14, and it seemed pretty much from 14 until he was 22. I imagine he was just training super hard nonstop. And I think after that Spinks fight, he kind of just burnt out, which I think is just like, I think it's impossible not to burn out, right? So if you're 14 and you train super hard to be the heavyweight champ, and then you accomplish that, and then, at 22, he became undisputed and unanimous and all those things, like, and lineal heavyweight champ. I think anyone would burn out after that, which it seemed like Tyson did, and then he stopped training, stopped taking it seriously, and then I think after winning that fight, I think maybe he only had 2 or 3 more wins before he showed up looking pretty sloppy against Buster Douglas, and then he finally lost. But yeah, watching that fight, What? One second, there's a fire truck here. Watching that fight was pretty awesome. The pre-fight is awesome, watching him enter the ring, watching, you know, Spinks go from confident and excited to just super terrified, right? And I think too, I mean, I think Tyson was at his pinnacle in that fight, and he was in amazing shape, and he must have known that going into the fight too, right? I mean, he must have known he went into that fight, like, I'm sure his confidence was I'm sure it was just exuding confidence because he was so confident, he was so ready and everything, and then he just completely destroyed Spinks in 91 seconds. And it's pretty awesome too. I'm trying to think, I guess you can look at Google it or something, but I think Tyson was either like maybe a 3-1 favorite or 2-1 favorite or maybe a 4-1 favorite. I don't know. I know he wasn't a big favorite for that fight. And it's just a complete demolition. And it would have been awesome to be around, or, you know, be old enough to be watching that fight live or to bet on it, right? I'm sure a lot of people were betting Tyson, and it sounded like a lot of people were betting Spinks too, so it would have been awesome to be, you know, on the side that was betting big on Tyson. But yeah, I do love rewatching that fight over and over, and a lot of people have said that version of Tyson, you know, it's possible no one beats him, right? A lot of people, like when people say prime Tyson versus prime Ali, that's the prime Tyson people are talking about. You know, that's, you know, I feel like often you talk about prime Ali, you'll talk about Ali's fight against like Cleveland Williams, and if you're talking about prime Mike Tyson, you're probably talking about Mike Tyson's fight against Michael Spinks. So yeah, those are my 10 favorite Tyson fights. I'll have to rewatch them on YouTube. You can check them all out. Also, so I was gonna bet this weekend on David Benavidez against David Morrell. So I've been betting Benavidez a few times. I bet on him, I think minus 300 against Caleb Plant. I bet on him, I think he was minus 600 against Alexander Govzik. And I won those both bets. And now in this fight, I think he opened at minus 140 against David Morrell. And then I look now, and I think the odds have gone from minus 140 all the way to minus 230, which is pretty crappy. And it's not, I mean, obviously, if I feel like, you know, if I was going to bet on Benavidez, I should have been doing it at minus 140 a few months ago and not minus 230. But the main thing is I watched this. I have never watched David Morrell fight. So he's a Cuban fighter who's 11-0. When I saw that he was a Cuban fighter, it kind of worried me a little bit. So I was like, obviously, you know, because some of those Cuban fighters are pretty good. He's a Cuban southpaw fighter. Anyways, I looked up some videos of David Morrell fighting, and I was pretty impressed. I watched his most recent fight, I was impressed. Then I watched some fights before that, I was also impressed. And I just thought to myself, like, yeah, I don't want to bet against this guy. I don't want to lay minus 230 on Benavidez, especially when I could have got minus 140. I mean, if I thought it was like a sure thing, I wouldn't really care what the odds were, right? You know, whenever I think there's a fight where it's a sure thing, I'm happy to bet it, you know, anywhere from minus 500 or lower. And so minus 230 in general, I'm happy to make those bets. But after watching David Morrell fight, and also first, I mean, after, you know, missing out on the minus 140, now that's minus 230. And then after watching David Morrell fight, I'm just, yeah, I don't think I'm going to bet against him. I'm interested to watch the fight, though. I'm kind of curious what is going to happen, because I don't know, I just think they're both good fighters, and it is kind of interesting to see what happens. And then also with David Benavidez, I don't know why he moved up to light heavyweight, because I thought he was looking pretty amazing at super middleweight, and he never won a title because Canelo had them all. And my thinking was, you know, if you're Benavidez, why not just wait it out? I mean, you can still just keep winning fights at super middleweight, and then if Canelo does, you know, if Canelo refuses to fight you, you could always just eventually get the belts that are, assuming at some point he's going to be forced to vacate some belts or something. And I think he already had to vacate one of them. So yeah, eventually you could just get your title, you know, the long way or whatever. And yeah, I think David Benavidez should have stayed at 168 longer. But anyways, he's moved up to light heavy, and he's fighting David Morrell, and it should be a good fight, but I'm not going to bet on it because I just think David Morrell looks pretty good. After I hadn't watched him before today, and I watched him a few of his fights this morning, and I was discouraged from betting against him, so I won't be betting on Benavidez. All right, well, that's all for now. I'm off to work, and all right, have a good weekend. Bye, everyone.